Good evening, good afternoon, good something. Ed Fields here. I'm not feeling great, Osprey. I got to be honest with you. I don't know what it is. I think maybe I've been rushing around, trying to find guests that went missing.
Oh,
okay. But yeah. But I'm just saying that because they weren't missing. It's just that Tashina can't see. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, you know, I got to bring it up.
Was
Yeah.
towards
The back.
me.
Well, once their back is toward you, then they're not a person anymore.
Osprey is looking directly at them.
Once the person's back is to you, they don't count as a human being anymore. Anyway, we have Tashina Blair Robinson. Or is it Robinson Blair? It doesn't matter. Okay, if you're going to have a dash name, people are going to get mixed up. I always mix up.
Mixed up. I've known you since like 2000. 16 years later. How you getting mixed up?
Because you added a dash. It's like I get mixed up with Wallace Whitfield and Whitfield Wallace. I don't know which one it is. Once you put that dash, it's confusing to me. Now, let me just say this because we got two sets of guests on tonight. We have Cable Bahamas, David Burrows, marketing, and John Gomez, who's the leader of that organization, that Rev thing. I'm confused with that too. They got a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of things going on, so they'll clear that up. And we also have Carol Lashley and Laura O'Neill, who's with ADR, Alternate Dispute Resolution. So we're going to talk with them about mediation, etc. But before I do that, there are a couple of observations. You know, we got to have a little thing. And I'll tell you what my number one observation I learned is that I want to employ the people who constructed the fish fry buildings, the Potterski buildings, and that little fruit shack at the corner of Chippingham. Okay?
The fruit shop where?
At the corner of Chippingham and Bay Street. Okay. You know, they sell like fruits.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean? Or you're just saying uh-huh?
Chippingham and Bay. Chippingham.
Do you know where the fish fry is?
Yeah.
Do you know Chippingham?
Oh, the fruit.
Oh, yes.
Right
it's
there.
fruits. It's fruits in it, yes.
Turn to the left.
Yes, fruits. Fruits. There you go. So, so the person, because that level of construction is so, it's got to get Cat 5. It's Cat 5 resistant. And I think it's because the nails are put in at so many different angles, the hurricane say, you know what? Let's not waste our time with that. Okay? Let's move on to something we can knock down. We can't figure this out. The same thing with the Arawak people and the Potterski people. They're not moving.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
They build that, you know, because you know Bahamians, when they build.
Like over the hill homes.
When they put nails in, they put in tight tin. I mean, usually you put two, but they put in about tight tin. But at different angles. You see, so when the wind is blowing at one angle, and the hurricane says, you know what? We don't want to wait. We don't want to downgrade ourselves from a Cat 4 to like a Cat 1 by fighting this. This is like the mountains of Cuba, okay? So I think that the lesson to be learned, there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and one is hire those people, okay? That's number one. But listen, also, you know, I felt a need to put out a props, and this will also apply to the cable guys as well. The people who are on the ground, okay, who are out there, who have been out there from, when did we have the hurricane? October 1. What date was that?
I don't know.
Was it like the 6th or something like that? I don't even remember what it was. It was a while. The 6th, yeah. They've been out there from when the wind died down on Thursday to now, constantly working. They're getting a lot of negative. And they are working. They're not. I don't think you could. I don't know if there's anyone sitting around on their butt. These linemen and people who are out there, and they're working long hours. And I almost feel as if they probably have some sort of syndrome about the responsibility that's on them to get their brothers and sisters back up.
So they're feeling the weight.
Yeah, the weight. You know, they feel like they cannot. It's like they cannot abandon the Bahamian people. They've got to work nonstop until they get these lights on. And
well, know, I was irate until my light.
Well, you're irate in a normal way. So that's and now you're not irate.
With the thing is, no matter how hard they're working, it's not going to be enough for people.
Once you're down,
yeah, it's like you can't appreciate the fact that they're working hard.
I explained to Arnett and the folks who are on from BC, you cannot explain anything to anyone in despair.
No.
I mean, it is the most difficult thing to explain something to someone in despair, and it's impossible to someone who's in a panic.
Right.
Okay.
Because all rationality is out
Well,
the
it's
window.
you're just
So
it's
it's like,
and you know who's despair. And this is a little humor now. You got to put in a little humor. The people who are in despair are the people without light. You know who the people in panic are? The people who can't see TV. No, they can't see TV. Okay? See, you despair when you got the light issue. Okay? If you have water is pretty panicky. Water, if you have water, you can get some battery lights. You can make things work. It's kind of cool
still
now.
Very depressing.
It is depressing, but you
Yeah.
can still function. You got the
you can still
water,
function.
you get some bunch of lights. But boy, when you ain't got that TV,
When you don't have
that
TV,
box just black.
no, you want to you want to kill your kids, and your kids want to kill you
Well, it shows really. You know what the lack of TV shows.
because there's no internet. So TV
Yeah,
and
internet. You know what it shows? You know what? This is another lesson learned. How much you really hate the people you live with.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
Because this is a
That's
great
it.
bonding
No,
time
no,
for me and
no,
my daughter.
no. That's you and your child. That's good. They don't know what's happening right now. For people who can speak.
My daughter is 12 and a half.
Oh, well, then,
Yeah.
But the other one, you also stole our money, if I recall, right? Yeah.
This old story.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's not an old story. You stole her money, so she wants to talk to you to try to get that money back. I'm talking about people's spouses and partners and children. You really realize how much you despise them
Oh my goodness, you're so
Okay.
good.
when you can't just distract yourself with that TV.
It's gonna force reconciliation then.
No.
Yeah.
It's going to force something, but it's not reconciliation. Okay. And I just want to see the stats, the crime stats, with no
Oh, my
TV.
goodness.
But no, it's all good humor. But those guys are they're working too. But I'll tell you, we've come into a world. We're in a world now. See, I just went and saw Magnificent Seven with Denzel Washington. You seen it? It's a remake of an old movie.
I
Okay.
haven't seen anything.
Okay, that's true because you're powerless. Okay, so the thing is, when you go to see cowboy movies or just movies, period piece movies, one of the things you don't really realize is things that you take for granted because you're watching the movie, right? You're watching the movie and you're smelling popcorn and relish from the hot dog. But really, if you're watching a cowboy movie, you should be smelling cow dung and horse dung. You're not smelling that, okay? You're also not realizing that these people who just came off the ranch, they haven't bathed. There's no shower. And you know what's even worse? There's no ice. Can you imagine coming off of a ranch all day rustling up cattle and you can't get yourself a cool drink?
That's how I was feeling last week.
Well, there you go. Okay? Well, you could have gotten a cool drink. You could go
No,
somewhere.
because, like, ice was
No, I know,
melting.
but you
couldn't
could.
keep
What I'm
ice.
saying is, you in the 21st century could go and find a cool drink. If they're in Arizona, they would have to go to Norway to get a cool drink. Okay, there's no cool drinks anywhere. Okay, so you see why they're in gunfights all the time?
Yeah,
They just drinking hot whiskey. They're pissed and crusty. Do you know what it is to have crusty testicles and no ice?
no.
See, at least if you got it.
Osprey, jump in.
What's that? Osprey. What Osprey? You know? You're aware?
Do you know?
I've had similar scenarios.
Share.
Well, it's a carnival story. I don't want to go. It's a long carnival story. I didn't really have. They weren't crusty. I just had major chafe. Okay. Osprey is a Trinidad man. He'd know about carnival when you walk in that 20-mile route and that friction hit in, on the toes. Okay, but no, it's all good fun. But listen, we again want to say a special thank you to all the folks out there, the BEC linesmen, and work, the people who are out on the ground, the Cable Bahamas people, the water and sewage people, the BTC people. There's a lot of stuff going on, man.
Bahamians are gonna show their appreciation, but it's only gonna come when everything has returned.
When my
to
light's
normal.
on.
Yeah.
When mine's.
Yeah.
Plural.
That's just human nature.
Yeah, it is, and
Yeah.
so there's this fine line between allowing people to vent but then trying to say to them, okay, let's not channel this in the wrong direction. So you had your scenario. You told me that your child was in diapers. This is your 12-year-old?
No, my 11-month-old.
Okay. All right.
He's so idle.
What? What did she say? Idle?
Yeah. But my baby was really sweating that sweat. So, and then like the day after your show, my light came on.
Yeah. Well, that's because we did that for you.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, what were you wearing?
My God.
Did you have a diaper on as well?
Underclothes. You can't go home.
Underclothes?
And put on clothes.
You wore underclothes?
Who goes home and put on clothes when you don't have electricity?
You walked around your home in underclothes? So the BC people.
You were in AC the whole time, right?
No, I'm a nudist, AC or not.
No curtains and blinds.
Yeah. Curtains and blinds. No, I'm a nudist, generally. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But, I live kind of semi-alone, so, But, no, so anyway, hopefully we're seeing some normalcy. There's a lot of people out there moving trees. Did you have a lot of tree damage in your yard?
No, not, well, my mango tree took a little bit of my fence down, so I had to call one of our
people
sponsors.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I want to, this is now, the other lesson here is this. We still have one more month for hurricane season, and apparently there's a little disturbance out there somewhere. Anyway, this gives you now 12 months to prepare. See, I think, to be honest with you, the big problem was?
To position yourself. I think you said begin to position yourself to get a generator and stuff like that.
Anything you can afford to do, right?
Definitely.
Because here's the situation, right? It's going to happen again. Okay, we've had 2 in a row. We had Joaquin, we had this. That's 2 Cat 4s, okay? I think, to be honest with you, in Nassau especially, got lulled. Okay, even though a lot of people were, active and heightened, the real things you needed to do, we didn't do. Like, the BEC bill tells you to trim your trees, not when they get up in the actual wire to call, then having to call BEC, which they should do, but you should be trimming those trees, right?
People were doing a lot of things like that at the last minute.
Yeah, trimming trees. You don't buy supplies that are going to spoil, but get some stuff, whatever you can do to just be ready. Just be ready, man. Yeah. Plywood for those windows. Get those barrel bolts. Get those windows.
A lot of last minute stuff. I saw people doing. I was asking my mom if she's going to put in a shutter. She kind of waited right till the last
Check
minute.
your roof. You've got 12 months. Check your roof. I mean, I'm talking about just one. Make sure those shingles are down, because what happens is when one shingle goes, they start to peel off, and then it's a downhill and everything. Anyway, we got to go. We're going to bring in David and John, and we're going to talk about. And if you don't check your shingles, call the guy who's building the fruit stand. Okay, he's going to be busy. He's going to be busy. We're going to be right back.
Brought to you by Sunshine Insurance, Roman Mill Bread, Arawak Homes, Kalik, Woodlawn Gardens.
All right, I forgot my headphones, Osprey, but this is what happens. I actually took I have a bag, that pink bag I have, and I took it out of my car, for hurricane. Hurricane protection.
Don't know why, but.
Because, that's what would happen. Anyway, so we've got here on our show this evening, David Burrows, who's the Vice President of Marketing of Cable Bahamas, and John Gomez, who's the COO of Cable Bahamas. And I think, first of all, welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Ed.
I think, first of all, the funny thing is that out of all of the utilities, water, I was going to say sewage, water, light, phone. That cable thing is like a source of panic, man. If you can't get that cable.
More specifically, internet.
The internets. Yeah.
Internets.
Yeah, because see, without the TV, at least they can stream, they have contact.
Right.
And they don't have to look at anyone else.
Right.
Okay? Because that's the problem, is that people are having to now say like, oh, How long have you been here in my house?
But I'll tell you, Ed, I mean, one of the challenges also is that even the younger kids,
Yeah.
I mean, the 5-year-olds, even
Yeah.
the 3-year-olds, they are creating mass panic for the parents, and we understand and we appreciate that. And so that's one of the reasons why we are pushing so hard to
Yeah.
try to get the services back on.
Before we get to what are you up to now in terms of people, subscribers? First of all, were you impacted in all the other islands as well? Crooked Island, Long Island?
Yes, we were. In
Yeah.
fact, let me just give you a little bit of the background behind that. I mean, as we know, the hurricane touched practically every island of the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Fortunately for us, I mean, there were some islands, the southernmost islands. On those islands, we have a very limited package that we provide. It's
Okay.
what we call a 6-channel off-air package.
Okay.
Persons on those islands don't pay for it. So there are 14 locations.
Okay.
These are islands such as Mayaguana,
Yeah.
Crooked Island, Acklands, Rum Key,
Right.
the very small islands. And so, fortunately for us, there were only 3 out of the 14 islands that were impacted.
Okay.
So the other systems remained up, so residents were able to continue to enjoy our services and to see what was happening.
I'm going to ask you a technical question later, so I'm going to just put that on the side, but I want to ask that. Now, Nassau and Grand Bahama, obviously. Grand Bahama
And
is,
Andros.
And Andros.
And
yeah.
Andros.
Yeah. Major. Well,
Major.
starting from Andros, just major, right?
Yes.
Major.
Yeah.
Major.
Grand Bahama, major.
Major.
Major. Someone's telling me, I thought that something like only 8 to 10% of Grand Bahama is up electrical.
I think it's 11%
It's
today.
well, our network is
Yeah.
we're at actually 15% as of today.
Wow. That's
And the thing is, I mean, the challenge that the Grand Bahama Power Company have, because we actually follow after them.
Okay.
So once they get the network up, we basically follow in terms of making sure that once it has been declared that the systems are all free and safe for our guys to go in, we go in immediately thereafter.
because you're on the same pulse.
We're on the same poles.
Yeah.
And so they've lost about 1,200 poles. So
Yeah,
that tells you the magnitude
Yeah.
in terms of the damage
Yeah.
to the network.
Nassau, we're up to like what percentage back on?
76?
We're at 76 as of this afternoon.
Not 78, 76.
76.
Okay.
Very-
you got it right
very
down.
precise.
Okay. So, okay.
Every 2 hours, we
Yeah.
get notifications on exactly where
76 and a
everything
half. Yeah.
is. Exactly. No, very much so.
So what is it going to take? What? And this is because of the BEC as well.
That is correct.
So when you hear BEC say that they're at 80%, that's a realistic number because you're following them.
Right. yeah.
Exactly.
Because there are a lot of people who choose to not say. They say BPL is not. It's not true. But that's a very interesting cross reference.
Right. We what has to understand both ourselves as well as BTC. We rent the infrastructure of BPL.
BPL, right.
We're
Their
tenants.
pull, yeah.
So when their infrastructure gets impacted, we get impacted.
Yeah. So and again, the majority of the problem, and I know John is on the engineering side there, was because poles are down.
It's because poles are down, and also what also happened was that there were a number of trees that came down. So the trees also impacted the service line from
Right.
the roadside going to
Right.
the consumer's house.
Okay.
And so once those trees pull those lines down, even though our network is up, the individual service to the subscriber
Yeah.
can still be off.
Tell me about this thing because I always see it's like an evil little word about the node.
Okay. The node is really
I just
a simple analogy for it
Yeah.
is that we have a power supply,
right.
and then we have this gray box
Yeah.
that provides all the signals to the consumer. So once that power supply is off,
Right.
then there's no signals going to the node, no signals going to the customers.
Right.
And so this is why sometimes when you call into our service desk,
Right.
you will say, well, look, we're waiting for BPL to restore the services.
Right.
So basically what happens is that during the normal times when there's no hurricane or what have you, those power supplies to the nodes, they last upward to about eight and a half hours.
Because they have batteries?
On one time. They have batteries to every one of
Okay.
them.
All right.
And so, but as we can imagine, after the hurricane and the power has been off an extended time, of course it's going to be, those batteries going to run down.
Yeah.
And
Y'all
once
ain't
they
got
run
the
down-
y'all ain't got the Duracell on them now. Because they last longer.
You need some larger Duracells. No.
You know what I mean? We need to up that battery capacity, man, because everyone in a panic. Okay, I believe you could put people in darkness, and if they could find some way to like wind the power so they can
Watch
watch
the TV.
cable, they'll be fine.
But to that point, just before we move from that, when you talk about those battery supplies to the nodes, we actually changed up our game. So what we decided to do, changing the strategy, we actually took a portable generator, and we've actually attached it to our power supply. So those areas that currently have the BPL supply on, and if we don't have the BPL power back to our node, then this is how we're getting the power.
So you get a generator in there.
We got
And just to kind of clarify that a little bit, you could, if you live on Shirley Street,
right,
and Shirley Street gets turned on, but the power supply or the distribution hub, which we call the node, is on Bay Street.
right, that wouldn't get power to put us on.
Exactly.
So you have to put a
we got to take
generator.
the generator to Bay Street
Right.
so that you can get TV on Shirley Street. So that's kind of the analogy.
These are visible generators you put down.
Oh, they are, but we have them manned.
Okay,
there's
because
someone
I was
actually
going to say,
watching
you
the-
know, locked down on that.
Yes, they are locked down.
They're all locked down, and they're mad.
Okay. You know, little mine. So this is the question I want to ask, and I obviously it's not possible for electricity, at least not yet. Will we get to the technology where cable can become wireless, like instead of running that, because this is wireless, right? Will you ever get to the point where you can have a wireless TV
Yes.
that pulls in a signal from cable?
Yes.
Okay. When? Tomorrow?
Um,
Because we want it, we'll buy it.
You want it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, we want it now.
Yeah.
Whatever it costs, we'll get it for you.
it will be soon.
Yeah, because we'll put that on a finance plan, whatever we got to put that on. Okay.
We're
It's
working
coming.
on it,
It's
Ed.
on the
We're
way.
working on it.
So, but the technology is out there?
Of course, the technology is out there.
Yeah.
It's the complexities around it have to do with licensing and distribution rights. That
Because essentially it's cell on TV, right? It's wireless, like through
Yeah,
the
pretty
repeater
much.
stations, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So, well, because that would solve a lot of problems, but you still, people obviously without power will still not be able to turn on their TV.
Exactly.
But obviously, if they could find a way to charge your phones, because
Right.
you would be able to stream through phones, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
All right.
But if they have a generator, then they're fine.
Yeah. So, what you say that you're getting a lot of heat, a lot of flack. What do you find that is based on? Do people not grasp how we gotten to the point of humankind, right? Where the fact that we went through Armageddon doesn't really matter. Just get my damn TV on.
Well, I think I'll give you an example. I was interfacing with a young man on Facebook who said, I think we had done about our fifth iteration of explanations of how these things happen. And the fifth one, the reply came back and he said, why didn't you say that earlier? And what I said was, I actually did say it earlier, but, and I showed him where they were. It's just, it takes different ways of explaining things for different people. Not everybody understands, and especially with something as complex as what I just described to you as you're on Shirley Street and your power supply is over on Bay Street is not necessarily understood by everyone. Actually, our CEO was talking about it the other day, and he was explaining it to someone, and he tried 10 times and they couldn't get it. So it's not necessarily an easy concept to
And it's
understand.
also too, and again, we're not dismissing this. It's also, I don't care. What I need you to tell me is, when is it coming on?
But I think the other comment to that also is that, people in this day and age, commerce, businesses, schools, education, as I said before, even the little kids, the 3-year-olds, everyone is dependent and reliant upon this particular technology.
Yeah.
And I think this is where the frustration comes in, because we have become so accustomed to it,
Cannot
and
function.
it's essential. It's an essential service.
Right.
And so it's important for us to make sure that it's there
It is.
for our clients.
The internet has been called the infrastructure of infrastructure now. So it's, you have the roads, you have the power, you have all this. They're all powered by the internet.
Right.
So that's where that I was speaking to one of the people who work with me, and she had an internet outage, and she said this was prior to the hurricane. She said she panicked. She went into a panic. She didn't know what she was going to do because it was going to be down for the weekend. And it was.
I'm not laughing, but I am.
But that's. But so I say that to say that we
what did we do before?
understand. We do understand because we all live with that same situation.
solution, Pictionary. We'll be right back. We'll be back right after the news. We'll talk with these two men from Cable Bahamas, and then later on, we have some folks from ADR, Alternative Resolution, Dispute Resolution, to tell us about why we can relieve some of that panic. Anyway, we'll be right back.
96.1.
The Trump subway, he dominates. But what we were talking about, and we'll get into some other stuff, but this whole thing about, well, we're going to have you guys on again, and we'll talk more about Cable Bahamas and NUCO and some of the other things you're doing. But this, do you not feel like drug dealers? You feel like that?
No.
No.
No,
I don't know.
I
how
guess the
drug
drug dealers
at
don't
all.
feel. You know the reason I say. You know what I'm saying, because there's an addiction here, right? You just said, like you said, the girl said.
Panicked.
She knew ahead of time she couldn't get it for the weekend, and she could not imagine living in that paradigm.
Right.
What is that? I mean,
Well, you could tie it to anything. Come
Yeah,
on, after the hurricane, KFC line was, how far was the KFC line?
Starvation?
It was long.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
come
yeah,
on.
yeah.
When anything new opens, the line is.
Yeah.
I remember when Popeyes opened. I mean,
Yeah.
it's this. It's a.
Is he doing well with this analogy? I'm just checking. He's okay.
The condition. It's just about there is a. It's not going to be there.
Well, that's
For
true.
a certain period
I
of
understand
time.
that. I
So
understand that panic.
exactly.
But I'm not talking about the panic as a result of taking back. I'm talking about just the I guess the word will have to be addiction. But because the point is, you're not eating KFC all day, every day.
No.
Who's the KFC? Okay.
No,
Whereas
but you're
this
also
thing-
not in your home all day, every day.
Okay, I'm going to figure that out. I'm probably
But,
sure I will.
I think what we can say is that it's an essential service.
It's an essential.
Exactly.
Okay,
And
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's so essential and
Communication.
everyone, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Particularly for people who are working from home, because
Yeah.
I would do work from home, so not having like internet or not having the ability to email and check my email and
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get back into the hurricane stuff,
And
but do you
homework.
think I know,
homework,
David, you do a
definitely.
lot of research on this, and I'm sure John does as well. But do you think we'll get to, because I think there's been a negative, obviously, part of this tool, right? Do you think we'll get to a point where we can start to filter out the bad stuff? Like there's a lot of like for instance, the thing with the gas, the gas shortage,
Yes.
that caused a panic.
Right.
Do you think we'll ever get to a point technologically where you can filter that stuff out? Because, that could cause problems, right? It could cause bigger problems than what we had. Do you think we'll ever get to that, or it's really out of the box now and you can't
Well,
control it?
it's a philosophical question of
Yeah.
how we as a people evolve and grow and adapt to the things that are around us.
Right.
I
mean, when TV first started, and we'll take 1 minute on this, when TV first started, they had a lot of censorship,
yes.
on TV, right?
Sure,
They
sure.
didn't expose you to a lot of things. This doesn't seem to have that capacity to do that. You know what I'm saying? So they control the kind of language that was used in prime time, that kind of stuff. When it was cable, you got child protection, V-chips, all that kind of stuff. This doesn't seem to have any kind of chip.
No, but this is now the information age,
Yeah.
right? And so, with information and the access to information, I mean, how do you control it?
And I guess we just have to learn how to be,
People have to censor
censor themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So tell us now. You are 76% up, as you said. That was 15 minutes ago. You want to check?
No,
See where we are?
I won't check my phone while on the radio.
Okay. Because we might be 77.9 now.
No, the next update is going to be at about 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So we're okay.
Where do you basically you're relying on BPL? Is that what's
Yes,
left,
we're working in conjunction with them. There's no other way to do this when you are in a situation like this. I mean, let's face it. There's not been an event like this since 1929 in the Bahamas.
But of course,
almost every island.
and as you recall, back then, people first freaked out when they couldn't get internet.
Of course. So we're now having it in a modern age, and it's hit the two largest population centers of the country.
Well, I mean, in 1929, we may not even have that many people who had electricity.
Right.
So no, I'm being serious. I mean, the reality is you might not have had the grid that you have.
No. Yeah.
So the damage that would have been caused would have been minimal compared to what you have
absolutely.
now. You know,
Absolutely.
But John had basically said you were what were you expecting to happen this week? We're going to be in the high 90s around when?
Well, again, I mean, when we quote the number 76%, we're actually talking about specifically to Providence,
Okay.
not to the entire country,
Okay.
because Grand Bahama is totally separate, right?
Yeah,
And as we said, just to make sure we clarify, Grand Bahama is at 15%, and New Providence is at 76%. And so our target right now is to really be in the high 90s, if not completed by the end of this week. There will be the ones and twos that we have to pick up, but we are very determined and committed to make sure that this thing is done.
When and I know this is probably a cost-benefit question, when you look at those family islands where you have these limited services, what is the cost-benefit analysis on when the thing is destroyed to just go in and put things underground versus doing it overhead again? Is there a benefit to doing that, or is it just too costly?
No, the cost is too high in terms of putting it on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, so we don't.
So really, the reality is there's very little when you have a catastrophic situation. This is something I think people need to understand.
Yeah.
When you have a catastrophic situation like this, that there's very little you can do other than the tree trimming, the things that will cause lines to go down. But then again, poles just snap.
Right.
That's right.
I mean, Freeport, I imagine they don't have a whole lot of trees going on over there. Those poles must have just ripped out because of the high winds.
Because of the high winds, a very open area, and they just crumbled.
And in reality, we were lucky. That's another thing that I don't know if people understand. We only got kind of like the high Cat 3, low. Right. We didn't get a direct hit like Andros did. I mean, if we had Andros, Andros type winds, or to the western side of the island, Lyford Key, they got a pretty. Yeah. Have you toured some of these places? Because I have not been to Carl Harbor yet.
Yeah, I went across the Grand Bahama.
Yeah.
And it's really, I mean, when you look at the number of poles that are lying on the ground, it's just amazing to see it. Yeah.
And all because of
the homes that are destroyed, the people that are impacted. It's just absolutely devastating.
So what I mean, I'll leave you with this. So what is Cable able to learn out of this experience? Cable Mamas able to learn out of this experience?
Well, I think this one was a very unique event. I think the aspect of communication and how you communicate. We deployed a lot more social media this time around. We were able to reach people a lot quicker this time around. So how we were pretty well prepared. I think that's one of the good things about our companies, that we've always prided ourselves in being prepared. We have hurricane preparedness meetings. We have all of these planning sessions to make sure that, and we hunker ourselves down with the management team to ensure that every possible scenario, and this doesn't work today, we change it first thing tomorrow morning.
But people, is there, and I don't know how from a marketing perspective how this sounds, but should people just come to grips with when you have something this catastrophic, really things are going to happen that are out of your control, and that there's going to have to be a sort of, and I know people out there ready to come and claw me, but that there has to be. It's a waiting game. It's when we can get the pole up, when we can get the line on.
I'll give you an example, Ed. We up until yesterday, we fielded about 40,000 phone calls.
Okay.
So that's.
I think I was 10,000 of those, but go ahead.
You're about 10,000. So that's just on the phone call side. We were pulling in about 3,000 inbox messages a day on the Facebook side. And
that, in the sense, that becomes overwhelming.
Yes, it does. And so we had to adjust staff to be able to do all of that. But what really became clear is you need to have one message that is for everyone, and that is what the message is. And we, for example, you can't expect necessarily that we can come back, and there is no timelines, meaning there's no this day at between 1 and 2 we're going to come to your home. This day we're going to be in this area.
Right.
And we're going to be working on the things that are down in this area. So it's an adjustment from that perspective that you're now dealing with something that's so much bigger than what your daily workload, which is individualized, typically.
Okay, I'm going to ask John the final question here. Do you feel that your network is stronger as a result of this? That your plant, do you feel that you come out on the edge of this stronger as a result of this?
My immediate answer is absolutely. I mean, when you look at what has happened, right? I mean, we've spent 20 years to build this network to where we are today. The hurricane comes along, spends a few hours here, creates a significant amount of damage. So what we have built in 20 years, we got to take about 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks to correct it and get all the services back up again. So it's a huge lift by the staff. It's a huge lift. And it's also a testament in terms of the amount of damage, in terms of the plant never went off. We still maintain services throughout.
It's just distribution.
It's the distribution.
And there are
from
areas
state
in New Providence, for example, right, John, that had their own power, never went down.
Yeah.
Never.
So we're quite confident in the network.
Okay. Well, listen, we got to run. We got to sort it up. We'll have you guys back because I know you got some new adventures down the road that we'll talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially that wireless. If you could just bring one in a box when you come in.
It's on the way. It's on the way.
I straight.
Yeah.
All right. So bring one for Osprey too.
All right.
Okay, and Tashina. Tashina. Okay. All right. Well, listen.
Brought to you by Alternative Dispute Resolution Bahamas, Bristol Wines and Spirits, Wendy's, Coca-Cola.
Oh, I'm on the air? Yes, you are. Good thing I didn't swear. All right. Well, listen, I want to thank Cable Bahamas guys, David Burrows, and John Gomez for coming by. And, hopefully that gave some, bit of understanding to the folks who are still out there in zombie land waiting for their program, their stories to come on, because it's a kind of a weird thing. I know I felt like I was whole again once the cable signal came in, but anyway, that's another story. So what we have one of our, I have to disclose, I have two disclosures to make, really. My sister-in-law, Carol Lashley, with us today, and one of our sponsors, which is Alternative, and I can never say it.
Alternative Dispute Resolution, ADR Bahamas.
But you can say it. That's wonderful. Yes. It's like a walking jingle. Anyway, so we have, and we have Laura O'Neill, who is, and I forgot where Laura is from, but I know she's working with ADR. Which your, give me that card.
On the back.
Yeah, the advice lady. That's the name of your company.
I can give you some advice.
Yes. Anyway, this is to me a remarkable subject. Actually, a very is the word apropos? Is that's what I would say?
Timely.
Yeah, timely, because Laura was saying to us the other day that when she came into the airport and she had to explain to the immigration guy why she's here, and she said she was here for training. He said, what kind of training? And she said, conflict resolution. He said, oh, yeah, we could use a lot of that. But tell us, Tony, just, a summary of what mediation and arbitration is all about and why it's something that we need here in the Bahamas.
Well, everybody needs it, not only us in the Bahamas, but we in the Bahamas are a little behind the 8 ball in terms of getting it up and running. And so ADR Bahamas is trying to push the agenda in that regard, primarily so that we understand what we have available to us, so that we can get our disputes resolved in a timely fashion without spending years and years and years and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. We all know, everybody talks about the court system, and I'm a product of that system, and so that's a disclaimer. So we know that the commercial civil side of the court drags on. The judges are primarily assigned to criminal matters, which is what the public wants and what our country needs. And so the civil side suffers, and so our matters go from a hearing today in October of 2016 to an adjournment in 2018.
An adjournment. That means when you get to 2018.
When you leave the court today, your next hearing is in 2018.
Okay, so I could like go away, travel the world, come back.
And then
maybe it'll be adjourned again. You never know.
You never know.
Well, you know what's interesting?
And so we need to find another way to resolve our matters, to take control of ourselves, can take control of our matters, and deal with them in a way as best as we can.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you what's interesting about that. There are two interesting things. One is that often people in professions like law kind of sustain the implosion that continues to happen, because the thing is bogged down, etc. But you've taken it out and gone to the next level, so to speak, because in the promotion that I wrote for you ladies coming here, I was talking about the fact that so many people actually are propelled into more stress and strife because the system is so slow. It is eating them alive because they're having to live with it daily. They're not closing the issue. Laura, what would you say to that?
I say you're absolutely right. And that while a lot of people feel you can avoid conflict, you cannot avoid conflict. We're human. We all have emotion. We all have stress. We all have things that we deal with. It's a part of who we are. And what we have to do is find a way to deal with it in the most efficient way that we can. And when you have a court system, not unlike the United States, that can drag on and drag on and drag on, what happens is that conflict doesn't stay the same, it escalates. And so it gets worse and it gets worse, and by the time 2018 gets here, you may have a whole new
You don't even know the beginning
of stuff
on
top of the stuff that you started out with.
Right.
So
But how do you get the matter from out of the court and before a mediator or
you wake up that morning and say, you know what, I've had enough of this,
and then you approach.
I'm taking control.
Call Tony.
you call.
So you call, and then what's the next step?
You're dealing with somebody.
Right.
So you are in conflict with Ed. And you determine, Edward, this makes no sense. We need to get somebody to help us to get this resolved because we'll be here unresolved and mad at each other until 2020.
We need to get on with our lives.
Let's get on with our lives. And if those people in the court or somewhere else makes a determination for us, either you're going to be mad with me or I'm going to be mad with you. Forever.
Right.
And you have a lot less power when you go to court, because when you go to court, someone else is making decisions for you. Maybe your attorneys are helping you, and sometimes, let me be clear, attorneys are very needed in some cases, but there are times when you can be in charge of your outcome. Because a mediator doesn't decide. An arbitrator will help you decide if you need that, but a mediator allows you to have most of the power between you and Ed, for example.
So is this good for divorce? Is it good for
It's
small
wonderful.
claims?
All of that. It's very good. And a conflict doesn't always have to go to court.
Right.
If the more that we can introduce this concept of just call it conflict resolution with a neutral third party helping you, you don't even have to go to court. You don't even have to get an attorney. Many people get an attorney and they bring them to mediation, and that's a different story. But
which is fine.
It's absolutely fine. But you can resolve conflict way, way, way up front when it's a smaller thing. So it doesn't have to go to any legal situation.
What's interesting about this too is that it's not in competition with the system, right? So that often when you try to introduce new things, there's a competitive kind of resistance. The reality is we're helping the system. Yeah.
We're helping the system.
And it's two totally different things,
right?
In reality.
But you might say, "Oh, I'm already in court. I wish I knew about that before."
Right.
It doesn't matter. You're already in court. You wake up today or tomorrow and you say, you know what? I'm coming out. And so you have a matter in court tomorrow. You go to the court and you say, I'd like an opportunity to resolve this outside of the system.
So you would go to the court.
Only if you have a date. If you don't have a date, then you don't have to worry. But if you have a date, which you know is not going to, on that day, resolve the thing completely, you say, I'd like an opportunity to try and mediate this, get it resolved another way. And the courts are quite happy. They say, thank you very much.
Because the judges often will actually want you to go and settle the matter amongst yourselves rather than...
That's their preference.
Yeah.
So what's been the pickup level? Are a lot of people turning to mediation, arbitration as a means of conflict resolution?
More and more. Not a lot. It's not a lot yet. And so that's the reason that we're here, so that people are becoming more and more aware of the availability of this type of service.
Right.
And mediation has been, I don't want to say popular, but it's been around since the early 70s in the United States. And many people still do not understand even what the word mediation stands for and what it means and what it fully can do for them. So it's not uncommon for people to need to be educated about just what the process even looks like.
What's the difference between mediation and arbitration? Because I think people conflate those, right?
Well, a mediation is a process whereby the mediator facilitates the parties to come to a decision themselves. An arbitrator makes a determination for the parties.
Okay.
Right.
And that's the simplest way.
Yeah.
Because I would think, with the situation with landlords and tenants and these little things that clog up the court system, this would be good. And is it cost effective, though?
Oh, absolutely, because the reality is if your matter is today, 2016 October, and you go back to court in 2018, you're going to spend some money trying to remember what they did then, pulling your witnesses back together to refresh their memory. So you're going to spend some money in terms of time and cost for refreshing to get back to court. Whereas if you are really determined to resolve your matter, you could have a matter resolved whether by mediation or by arbitration in a few months.
But then again, both sides have to be willing.
Good
to have
faith.
the
Good
matter
faith.
resolved.
Good faith.
Do they split the cost?
Generally speaking, yes.
Okay.
In an arbitration, however, sometimes the one person or the arbitrator might make a determination in the award for costs.
Well, let me ask you about, there are places of employment specifically, that in your contract require or mandate arbitration/mediation. Is that beneficial to both parties?
9 times out of 10 it is. For example, let's say you're building a house and you have a conflict or dispute with the person who's building for you, your contractor. And you say, well, I'm not paying another penny until you get this sorted out. And he said, well, I'm not going to start getting it sorted out until you pay.
Right.
If you are going to wait to get to court, your children will be finishing that house.
Okay.
Whereas if you had it mediated or arbitrated,
Right.
you'll get that resolved quickly and get back on.
So in a construction contract, it's something maybe you should put in that contract?
It always is.
It-
Well, I shouldn't say it always is. 9 times out of 10.
It's
it
built
should
into the
be.
contract?
Absolutely. Usually.
Oh, I don't know if
always.
people are aware of that. I don't know if people are aware of that at all. That you're saying that in a construction contract,
9
arbitration is built in as a clause into that contract.
Always. You probably don't read the contract, and the contract is quite happy that you didn't.
Okay.
So, and that would compel
always
him
is.
to agree.
Right. So you would take
thrash
him
it
to
out.
court, and he's hanging out quite
Having some-
merrily
yeah. Having
because
some
you
beers.
aren't aware that
Right.
you
Can
could.
take it to arbitration.
And the minute
he's
you go
forced
to
to go
court,
to arbitration.
absolutely, you go to court and say, there's an arbitration contract here. The court will say,
First time I've ever heard of
get
that.
out of here.
I mean, I was never aware. Were you aware of that?
No, I
No.
wasn't
See,
aware.
that's 3 people we weren't aware.
And I'll tell you, too, when there's an award. Oh, sorry, Carol.
Sorry,
go ahead.
that type of contract, a construction contract, is the one that I would say is 99%, if not 100%, always there's an arbitration clause.
That's assuming you have a contract, as opposed to saying, "Well, don't do this for me."
Right. But generally there is a contract,
contract,
and
yeah.
if there's a contract, there's an
Yeah.
arbitration
Okay.
clause.
Okay.
Other businesses as well.
Other things as
Yeah.
well, but
Just out of
construction-
interest, why? Just to get into technical, why is that particular thing, construction contracts, out of all of the stuff that we do around here, why is that one?
Because of what I just said. You have to get your building up and running. You don't want everything to be
No, I'm saying, why is
stagnant.
the clause built into that construction contract?
Because that's a contract where you cannot afford to wait
Oh, okay.
2 years to get it
Okay,
resolved.
all right. On both sides,
On
I
both
guess.
sides.
Yeah.
People go bankrupt otherwise.
Yeah. So things like divorce, small claims. First of all, now let me backtrack. So I think people who are listening out there are probably excited about this because People are probably building up sometimes. Like when I go to have some conflict, I could use that because people. You know what? Everyone is aware of the sloth. I like that word. Of the sloth of the courts. Everyone's aware.
That's an unfair comment.
See, now there's the bar association side now. Sorry, you're mediating now. Okay. No, there's some slothfulness going on in the courts. Okay. So, but what I'm saying is everyone is aware of it. You want to defend the courts? Go ahead.
No, all I'm saying is most judges are assigned to criminal matters.
Yeah. I'm not saying that judges are slothful. I'm talking about the process. Yeah.
Right.
You okay? You calm now?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So most people are aware that the system is clogged. How's that?
Perfect.
And as a result, they fear even the thought of going into the system. The fact that people are hearing this, I think, gives them some sort of hope.
I don't think people knew about it, just even in terms of divorce.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
because with the divorce, is it just one magistrate presiding over divorce?
No.
Because with the divorce can drag on for like 2 years.
Same process. You're in the civil and commercial side of the court, and so you have to wait until
you're
you
in
get
a system,
basically,
and we're
and
saying
that's
there
their requirement.
And you can pull the divorce out and have it
mediated,
right? And how do you? And it's lawful once you thrash out the terms of the divorce. It's binding.
So you mediate, come to an agreement, get it signed off on, go to your judge and say, we have an agreement.
So the
put it in
attorney
the order,
would take
please.
the agreement to the judge.
or the mediator. You have to have an attorney in that
They
case.
usually
You
do.
have to have
Most people have an attorney already.
okay.
You don't have to, but
Yeah.
Well, if it's
people
already
who,
through the system,
if you're in
It's
the
in the
system,
system, right.
an attorney.
you have an attorney.
Right.
So your attorney goes to the judge and says, we've resolved, we have a
Okay.
mediation agreement,
Right.
and that is made.
But
an
for those
order.
who are not in the system, let's say like right now, I'm planning to get divorced from Tashina. I'm planning it. Okay,
Well, I'll
she doesn't
be
know
moving
yet.
The divorce form.
Okay,
Right.
so rather than go get lawyers, we can go to mediation.
You have to, because the actual decree has to come through the court. The
Okay.
judge has to do it.
But we can mediate and then
so-
get it decreed.
You go into court, you show the judge that you have grounds for divorce.
Right.
You get a decree nisi which says, okay, your divorce is going to go through because you have demonstrated that you have the appropriate grounds.
Right.
And then you come out, mediate the issues that are outstanding, the children, the house, the land, the money, the insurances, everything. You sign off on it, get your mediation agreement done, and then you go back to the court and say, we've agreed everything. Put this in the order, please.
So because I'm weird this way. So why can't that happen in court? I mean, there's got to be some other emotional. There's other emotional stuff. It's not that simple. Because what I'm saying, because in other words, in mediation, it gets just as nasty as it does in the court. But why would you prefer one versus the other?
May I speak to that?
Yes, you may speak to that.
When I'm talking to the person that I'm angry with, and they're talking to me, we're talking, which is a huge thing. We're being able to discuss. Whereas if you and I are getting divorced, and Carol is an attorney, she's talking to your attorney, and your attorney's talking to her, and it's back and forth, back and forth. You and I are not resolving anything. We're not getting any emotional satisfaction. Whereas if you and I can come together and have a conversation, even if it's a little ugly, even if it gets a little heated, we can work out our resolve, and we can come to some agreements that feel some satisfaction and feel like we've had some emotional peace. Even if we have somebody who disagrees, maybe I want the divorce and you don't, there can still be some closure there that you never, ever, ever get in any other way.
That's where you always hear the one client said the judge screwed me over, or this one screwed. It's always someone else other than.
Yeah, and in this case, we have all the power here to be able to talk about what we need to talk about and to deal with things as they come up. And that includes the emotional things. Maybe apologies need to be made. And it can be in a landlord-tenant situation. It can be in a workplace dispute. It can be in a relationship. It can be in a friendship where things need to be said, and mediation gives you an opportunity, a system, if you will, to be able to work through some of those issues too. And we always want our agreements to be what we call durable. We want them to last. And so I don't care how many papers you sign and you turn into the court, how many papers we know that it happens that people don't follow those all the time. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I can help you develop a situation that you actually agree with and that other person agrees with, we put that out on a piece of paper. That's going to be durable. That's going to last. We're both going to want to make sure that happens.
Okay. Listen, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk about, I want to talk about who gets to be a mediator. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that.
Live, brought to you by Superwash, National Fencing, Scottsdale, and
yeah. And Tashina, I'm sitting here watching these two people, because they're embroiled. Anyway, so the thing is, we're here watching Osprey. And by the way, I sense the exasperation. Okay, and we have Laura O'Neill, the advice lady, with us from all the way from Washington State, the Apple people. And that's and we also have, of course, Carol, Tony, Rings and Things, Lashley with us. So that's a private joke. But listen, as I listen to what you're talking about, for a couple of questions. How much of this is going on now here? Or is this just
ADR?
ADR and mediation. How much is actually happening? Or is it just groundbreaking or just...
It's groundish.
It's groundish breaking. However, I was in my first mediation in the Bahamas in 1996.
Oh.
And I knew from then that this is where I needed to go, but it took me a while to get here.
That was court ordered then?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't.
What I mean, I don't want to know names, but
right.
What was the...
It was an insurance matter.
Okay.
And we brought in a mediator from Canada to do the mediation. And then I had a couple... with me acting as an attorney, not as a mediator. And I realized then, and the next one was my third one was in early 2000s. And then after I had done one in 2009, I realized I got to change.
So you're pioneering this in the Bahamas? You're a pioneer?
But there are others who are
doing it?
Quite a few others who are really well trained and qualified. But the public has to be more aware of the services available, and they're not.
And there hasn't really been an infrastructure and this is what I keep saying. There's not.
Is there a legal infrastructure?
No, I mean just a place. Like you didn't know that you could come to us, and so you need to build a mini system that says here are the steps. There's not been a system. Somebody said, boy, I wish I could go to mediation. I heard about it in
where do
England.
You go?
I wish I could do it. Oh, I can't do it. Because there was no infrastructure. There's no number to call. There's no steps to go through. There's no person to do intake.
Or even the legal system to say this would progress more quickly if you were to go to
That's
a mediator
a great point.
or arbitrator.
Exactly right.
So, because persons like me, well, I wouldn't want to go through all of that and then still have to go through the court system. Mm-hmm. We kind of feel like we need the court system to sign off on it to say, yes, this is legally binding. When you do it, the people are going to be confidential, and confidentiality is also a problem because the society is so small. So people want to know when they get before the mediator and arbitrator, they're going to keep their mouth shut. I don't think they,
It's a very legal term, keep their mouth shut.
This is very smart questions you're asking, though, and they're the kind of questions that people want the answers to. And it is confidential.
It is.
100%.
It is, which is amazing that you should say that, because a mediation or an arbitration is confidential, but going to the court is the opposite.
Right.
Why? Because there's so many people involved. Yeah.
If you don't have anything to
I can go to divorce court?
Go and sit down and, of course.
I thought it was closed. Oh, when do they have that? Anyway, so the next step. So who is qualified? Well, because what you just said to me or to us is that this is a product, if I could use that term, that people may well wish to take advantage of, but they're not aware of it. So how do you make mediation the new iPhone? That's really what we're talking about, because all people know about is landlines. I'm using analogies. Mm-hmm. All they know about is landlines. So they just go, when they go to BTC, they go, hook me up to a landline. They don't know you can get a smartphone. How do people now know? Because now everyone knows about smartphones.
Right. Well,
how does mediation
we do
become
this.
the
We
smartphone?
come onto your show.
Yeah.
We have a Facebook page. We have a website.
Uh-huh.
I mean, just like the standard ways that we do things.
Mm-hmm,
And we're doing a training next week.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do more and more trainings. And the other thing about conflict resolution at ADR Bahamas, it's not just mediation and mediation and arbitration. You might be somebody who does not want to be a mediator. It's not in your wheelhouse. You're not interested. I love what they're saying, but I don't think I want to help other people do it in that way. I have other things I'm doing in my life. But I would sure like to have conflict resolution skills in my own life. I work at my church. I am a school counselor. I am a teacher. I am a whatever I am. And these skills would really, really help me. I work in HR. I'm a radio host. I'm whatever I am. And I would really like to have these skills. So ADR Bahamas can help the community gain those skills and trainings, as well as
so it offers
just
that
being,
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have the capacity, Mrs. Lashley, to see? To me, it seems like when we're in the kind of the problems that we have in this community, that we should be looking for solutions outside of the traditional, throw more money at the courts or build more courts, et cetera, right? Do you think that our system, and you work obviously very closely with the Bar Association, that the legal department, I think there's a department of, what is it? It's called a legal department. The legal department would be amenable to saying, we've got a tremendous backlog here. We got a lot of petty stuff. We got a lot of. Should they start ceding off some of these things to mediators?
They could, but also I think what we really have to do is be responsible for ourselves. We want the government to do too many things for us. We want the legal department to do some things for us. We want our church to do some things for us. We need to be responsible for ourselves and say, you know what? I have a matter that needs resolving. I need to do some research. Everybody goes on the Facebook or on the internet. Exactly. And you look up mediation and you'll see ADR Bahamas. And so we need to be, if only a little bit, taking the initiative and getting some stuff done. We cannot wait for it to come into our lap.
The length of time.
That's up to you.
Right.
Because I've done a mediation that took 9 months, but I've also done one that took 3 hours.
Wow.
Two sessions of 3 hours, which is 6 hours. So it depends on you. You on the other side, you come in good faith, really wanting to get on with your lives. So you get to the nitty-gritty sooner rather than later, because sometimes you get into it and they go all around the bush talking about a pile of stuff which is not what they came to talk about for about an hour. And you ask about 20 questions and they're still talking about something else. Right. There's a lot of that. And so it really depends, but it's definitely not a long time.
But even if it were 4 sessions of 3 hours,
right.
And it
still
took
short.
2
It's
months.
short. Right.
That's much shorter. And you're actually resolving things. You're not just divvying up money and divvying up kids.
And then you would feel as if she's more familiar with the case, as opposed to a judge that you're seeing once every 5 or 6 months.
6 months.
What I also find interesting now, ADR, let's get on to ADR. So ADR seems to me obviously a mediator, but you also seem to be very interested in training. Is that correct?
Right, because
that's a novel approach. A lot of businesses aren't interested in kind of like, creating competition, so to speak. But why?
There's
So why that
enough business
approach?
for everybody.
But if we came and trained you,
Right.
or trained 5 people at Atlantis, for example,
Right.
those people, even if they were properly trained mediators with experience after the fact, there will be some things they can't resolve because Atlantis will be their employer, and the person who they're managing will be an employee, so they're conflicted.
Right.
So they still need to come outside.
Right.
But they're better able to deal with some issues before the conflict escalates.
Right.
And so that's so vitally important.
Right. And what type of person? I mean, I know you said all of these different. What type of person you think is suited to mediation? You think I'm suited to mediation?
No.
I'm not talking to you, Tashina. You're not a mediator. Be quiet. No, excuse me. I'm not listening to her. Tuni.
You're too opinionated.
Excuse me. Am I suited to mediation?
You have to want to be suited,
Yeah.
and everybody who is wanting
You see, that's
to
a different
be
answer.
suited
Okay.
is
Yeah.
because you have to want to listen, to get into your head and spirit what people are telling you and what they are in fact not telling you.
So
And
that
you have to be objective.
disqualifies
And you
you
have to be
as-
objective. Well, you have to be objective. I mean, that's all it means. You have to be objective. I do it, to be quite frank with you, I do a lot of that in my daily basis because you're having competing interests all the time. But you now, tell us about what it entails to be trained.
Well, Laura here is here to do some training, and she could give you, I think, in a capsule, what she would do in a 2 or 3 hour training, what you do in a 1 day training, what you would do in a 3 day training, and what you would do in a 5 day training.
Right.
So.
And there's certification okay. All right. So tell us, Laura.
So if you're interested in communication skills, if you're interested in conflict resolution, because a lot of people come to you and they come to you, Ed, and they say, I'm in your family, and I say, oh, help me resolve this conflict, or you're the person that all your friends come to, and no, help me understand this, help me figure this out. Training can really be vital for you there, because we get down to it. This is not when you say who's suited for this. Not the weak of heart are not suited for this.
Okay, you're out, Shashina.
You're going to learn. You're going to learn a lot about yourself and how you personally deal with conflict. So, and we want to match it because we know some businesses don't have 5 days to do training. We'd love to work with schools, the police, the businesses, anybody. And so we have to tailor what we do so we can shrink it. But if you want to be a mediator, the first step is to do the 40-hour training, which is basically 5 days of training. And then you would have a certification. But you can learn conflict resolution skills, you can learn communication skills, and of course that includes learning to listen in a really deep way, listening for what's not there. You might have heard people say you have to learn to read between the lines, and what we do is help you listen between the lines. We want you to listen for what's really not there, what is there, but they're not saying. So.
And how long have you been a mediator?
A little over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I've been a trainer for about 25 years, training lots of different types of things. I taught the entrepreneurial program at our college and things like that. So I've been a trainer for a long time, but this is my passion. And so I love it. And I prefer working with families and high emotion cases. I do work, in businesses and things like that. And of course I love to train. I've been a trainer for a long time.
What if you had to look over your 20-some years career and think of all the people, especially in the family emotional sphere, and think of all the people who've come to you, how would you quantify and I don't know even what the measurement is, but quantify would you say a success, that the people left there with closure, with with, as opposed to the angry,
Well, I would say in my 20 years, honestly, probably 95%. And the reason I say that is because when folks come to us, we do what we call an intake process. And we help educate. So we hear your story. We want to hear what your story is. Tell us about the conflict. Tell us about what's going on. We listen to the other side as well.
Simultaneously?
No.
Okay.
No. We're going to talk to you first. And we're going to talk to you.
Okay.
Each person. And we're going to hear. We're going to hear. Yeah. So it's the same case, but but both parties.
Sides, yeah.
And we're gonna assess what we call the mediability. How mediable, how well will this case do in mediation, and so we're going to educate you. So I'm going to tell you, Ed, this is exactly what you're going to experience. We don't want people to be shocked, right, when they come in. They're under enough stress as it is. Wearing this conflict for years, it's too much. It's too much for folks. And I've seen people who are brilliant attorneys, doctors, radio hosts, people who really got their stuff together, just be piles of nothing because they've had to endure this stress for so long.
So you get a lot of people who, because that's the thing, I guess I got the impression that the mediation process or the would bring someone to mediation is a very short window. But the reality is, by the time someone has gotten to you, there's already been a lot of damage.
They've
and the courts just adds on to the damage. They don't just come there like, hi, we're happy and we want to,
But even if it's not the court, I mean,
or something. Yeah.
I'm just saying, if the two of you, it's very rare, at least in my experience. Carol could speak to it differently, maybe, but by the time people decide that they're going to get divorced and they actually have that conversation, they're pretty beat up.
Okay.
And so just by the time they, I look you in the eye and say, yeah, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And that's a painful, painful place to get.
Right.
And it's painful to go through. And, people come to me and they say, if I'm tired of him. I don't want to be with him anymore. I'm so disgusted with the whole situation. But yet, why do I miss him? What's going on there? And I will say, well, we all have a fantasy. Right? When we get married, we're going to have 2.3 kids. We're always going to have enough money. We're always going to have great sex. We're always going to do great conversations. We're going to have wonderful friends. Life is going to be wonderful. And we don't even know that we come to every relationship, our children, our work life, everything. We come to a relationship like that, and we have this fantasy. And so people have to mourn the relationship, but they also have to mourn the fantasy. Of that relationship, and we do that in mediation. We help them walk through that.
Well, it's great stuff. I mean, I think going back to the immigration guy, I think we could use a lot of that here. We're always talking about conflict resolution, and we to date. I mean, to be quite honest with you, and I'm not, because I don't see the courts as a conflict resolver. Really, I don't think people have felt like they've had any other options. So maybe this is that new, certainly my man over here is all smiles and looking. Let me just ask you one question. Is it costly? Is mediation costly compared to, say, the process you go through with attorneys?
So I'll say this to you. Your attorney might cost you $450 an hour. You will pay $450. You'll pay $450. Your mediator...
I'm already in conflict. Go ahead.
Your mediator will charge you that $450, but you'll split the cost.
Okay.
And so the other side of that is you will spend that.
There are many hours.
50 times, maybe 50 times during the course of your court process, whereas you'll probably, very, very unlikely for you to spend it 20 times or 50 times over the course of your mediation process.
Right. And everyone who you've always resolved your case?
I haven't. But I have almost always resolved.
So what's the rate? If someone is coming to you, what's the chances that they're going to have their matter successfully resolved to kind of where both sides can live with it?
Well, when they get it resolved, it's because they believe they can live with it.
Right.
And I would say probably in my case, probably about 80%.
Okay.
But
way higher than the court.
But they're resolved that both parties can walk away smiling.
Right. Okay.
No, I mean,
what happens to that other 20%, by the way? They just go and have to go to another level? They go to court?
And you know what happens?
Some cases aren't
mediable.
Right.
Mediable.
But I've had some matters where they had 5 issues. We were able to resolve in the mediation 3, and the other 2 we just couldn't handle it. And so when they went back to court, they only had 2 issues to resolve.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's a win as well.
That is a success.
Yeah. Except,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the mediation here ends because Osprey has held up his Black Power sign. I don't know what that means in Radioland. But
it means
you know,
701.
It's 701. But listen, we have to go, and I want to thank both Laura and Carol, alias Tony, for coming by, because listen, we learned a lot. It's a lot of stuff to learn, and that's what I imagine this show. I always tell people this. I imagine this show is that it's during the drive time, and that's when people are in their cars listening to radio, and rather than shouting at them and yelling, we don't want to try and teach them something, have them learn something. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are driving who are in conflict. So hopefully this will enable them to see a path to hope to bring that conflict to closure. So I want to thank you for coming by, and we'll continue to promote ADR.
Thank you very much for having us, and as a part of our raison d'etre is to educate.
Okay. I thought you were going to throw me a free mediation on there, you know. Anyway, thanks a lot, ladies, for coming by.